If you are thinking about buying a home in a newer neighborhood in Colorado, there's one thing you absolutely need to understand before you fall in love with the house, and that is the Metro District. A lot of buyers hear the term, but they are not always given a clear explanation of what it actually means for their monthly cost, their long-term ownership experience, and even what questions they should be asking before they go under contract. So in this video, I want to break down what a metro district is, why developers use them, the advantages, the disadvantages, and what you need to look at before buying in one. Let's start with the basics. In Colorado, a metro district is a type of a special district. A special district exists to provide public services and infrastructure. Depending on the community, that can include things like streets, sidewalks, parks, landscaping, drainage, water, sanitation, recreation areas, and other public improvements that support the neighborhood. So when you hear Metro District, what you're really hearing is that there is a local government entity connected to that community that may help finance or manage some of the infrastructure and services there. Why do Metro Districts exist in the first place? Usually they show up in newer developments because building out a neighborhood is expensive. Someone has to pay for roads, utilities, drainage, parks, open space improvements, and all the infrastructure that makes a community livable. Instead of having all of those costs paid up front in a different way, a metro district can be used to finance those public improvements over time. That is one reason you'll often see metro districts in master planned communities and newer suburban developments. Now, let's talk about what this means for a buyer in real life. The biggest thing most buyers notice is taxes and sometimes fees. A metro district can have authority to issue debt, levy property taxes, and in some cases impose fees, rates, tolls, penalties, or other charges. In plain English, that means the cost of living in that neighborhood may be higher than in a similar home outside a metro district or outside a higher tax district because you are helping fund those community improvements and obligations. This is where a lot of people get caught off guard. They focus on the purchase price and the mortgage payment, and they don't fully understand the tax side. In Colorado, property taxes are based on actual value, assessment rate, and mill levy. 1 mill equals $1 of tax per $1,000 of assessed value. So when a metro district has its own mill levy on top of their overlapping taxing entities, that can mean a meaningful difference in what you pay each year. That doesn't automatically make it bad, but it does make it something you need to understand before you commit to the home. Let's go over the advantages first, because metro districts are not automatically a negative thing. One major advantage is that they can help create neighborhoods with amenities and infrastructure that might not otherwise happen as quickly. That can mean better roads, more complete landscaping, trails, parks, open spaces, and other community features that make the neighborhood more attractive and more functional. For some buyers, that lifestyle benefit is worth the extra cost. They want the newer home, the newer layout, the updated design, and the community feel that often comes with this development. Another advantage is that metro districts can help support growth in areas where infrastructure will otherwise be delayed. In other words, the neighborhood may be able to get built and improved sooner because there is a financing mechanism in place for those public improvements. Buyers sometimes don't realize that the parks they enjoy, the neighborhood entries they love, the trail systems, and even certain utility and drainage improvements may be tied to the district structure. There can also be more transparency today than there used to be, and that matters. Colorado law has added more disclosure and public information requirements in recent years. For example, certain metro districts are required to hold annual meetings, give residents an opportunity to ask questions, and maintain a publicly accessible website with information such as board members, regular meetings, overlapping governmental entities, annual meeting information, and contact information for resident questions and concerns. That is a positive shift because buyers and homeowners should be able to understand who is making decisions and where to find the information. Now, let's talk about the disadvantages because this is the part buyers really need to understand. The first disadvantage is simple. Your ownership cost may be higher. A buyer may compare two homes that seem very similar in price, size, and style, but one has significantly higher property taxes because of the metro district structure. That affects affordability. It affects your monthly payment, it affects your debt to income ratio, and it may affect how comfortable you feel owning the home over time. Even Colorado's down payment assistance guidance specifically includes metropolitan district fees among housing costs, considering the front end ratio. The second disadvantage is that many buyers do not fully understand the district before they purchase. They may hear a quick explanation like, yes, there is a metro district, but they are not shown how that translates into actual dollars, what the debt looks like, how long it may last, or how the district operates. That lack of understanding is exactly why Colorado has passed more transparency laws. If the state keeps adding disclosure requirements that tells you this is an area where buyers need to pay attention. The third disadvantage is uncertainty over time. A Metro District service plan, the debt structure, and bill levy limitations matter. Colorado law now requires certain newer service plans to include the maximum mill levy that may be imposed for general obligation debt and the maximum debt that may be issued. A 2025 law also added a requirement to include the maximum term for imposing a debt service mill levy on residential property. That is helpful, but the point for buyers is this. You should not assume all metro districts are the same. Some are more reasonable than others. Some are more mature. Some may have different long-term cost implications. Another disadvantage is that buyers sometimes think metro district means HOA, and those are not the same thing. You can have one, the other, or both. A metro district is a governmental entity. An HOA is a private association. A buyer who only asks, what's the HOA fee, may miss a major part of the picture if the neighborhood also has metro district taxes. So if you're buying in a newer neighborhood, you need to look at the full monthly and annual cost, not just the mortgage and not just the HOA. The right question is, what is my all-in housing cost? So what should a buyer actually do before buying in a metro district? Number one, ask for the current property tax amount and ask whether the home is in a metro district. Do not leave it at a vague yes or no. Ask for the estimated annual property taxes in dollars for the specific property you're considering. Colorado law now requires broader metro district disclosures in residential sales, including an estimate of property taxes levied by the Metropolitan District for collection during the year the sale occurs, and a copy of the most current certificate of taxes due or tax statement to help estimate overlapping mill levies. Number two, review the Metro District website. Under current Colorado law, sellers of residential real property located within a metropolitan district must provide the purchaser with the official website established by the district. And certain districts must make a substantial information available on that site. That website can help you find meeting dates, board information, annual meeting details, contact information, and sometimes budget and debt information. Number three, ask for the service plan and ask someone to help you interpret it if needed. Most buyers are not going to sit down and casually read a service plan for fun, and that's completely normal. But that document matters because it can tell you what the district was created to do, what powers it has, and depending on when it was approved, the maximum debt, mill levy limits, and other important terms. This is one of those areas where having a knowledgeable agent and, if necessary, a tax or legal professional can really help. Number 4, ask whether the neighborhood has both an HOA and a metro district. That combination is not unusual in newer communities, and buyers need to understand both. Sometimes the HOA is modest, but the taxes are higher. Sometimes the HOA handles one set of things and the metro district is tied to another set of infrastructure obligations. You want to know exactly what you are paying for and through which structure. This is not about fear, it is about clarity. Number 5, compare the home you love against other options with the same monthly budget. This is a practical step that I think every buyer should take. If one home has a lower purchase price but much higher property taxes because of the metro district, and another home has slightly a higher price but lower taxes, the benefit is not always obvious until you compare the full payment. Sometimes the community amenities and the newer neighborhood are absolutely worth it for a buyer. Other times, the buyer realizes they would rather put the money toward a different location or a larger home. Now, let me address a question I hear a lot, which is, are metro district bad? Well, my answer to that is no, not automatically. A metro district is a structure, not a guarantee of a good or bad purchase. Some people are very happy in metro district communities because they love the home, the amenities, the neighborhood design, and the convenience. The issue is not whether a metro district exists. The issue is whether you understand the cost, the trade-off, and how it fits your goals. I also think buyers should remember that newer neighborhoods often come with things people generally want. For stars, newer homes, modern layouts, energy efficiency, community trails, playgrounds, open space, and a more polished master plan feel. In many cases, the metro district is part of how the community came together. So this should not be framed as never buying a metro district. It should be framed as know what you are buying, know what you are paying, and make an informed decision. One more thing that matters is homeowner involvement. Colorado law requires annual meetings for certain metro districts with residential units, and those meetings are meant to include updates on infrastructure, bonds, year-to-date revenues and expenditures compared with budget, and an opportunity for public questions. There are also website transparency requirements that make it easier for residents to see board information and meeting schedules. So if you live in one of those communities, it is worth paying attention. Homeownership is not just about the house. It is also about understanding the systems connected to the neighborhood. So here is the bottom line. If you're shopping in a new neighborhood in Colorado, do not just ask about the house, ask about the metro district, ask about the taxes in dollars, ask what services or infrastructure the district supports. Ask whether there is also an HOA, ask for the website, ask for the disclosures, ask for the service plan, and then compare that total cost and community value against your other options. That is how you protect yourself as a buyer and make a confident decision. If you're buying in the Denver metro area and you want help comparing neighborhoods, taxes, HOAs, and metro district costs so you can understand the full picture before you buy, reach out to me. I'll be happy to help you break it down in a way that actually makes sense. Thanks for watching.